Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. Do you want to become a better shooter, reduce flinch, protect your ears, and just overall enjoy shooting your gun that much more? Then there's no better way to do that than by adding a suppressor to the end of your barrel. Be sure to check out Huxwrx Safety Co, as they are a leader in the suppressor world with their OSS Flow-Through Technology, virtually eliminating blowback and toxic gas that can affect weapon system performance and shooter health. To find out more about Huxwrx, go to huxwrx.com. That's huxwrx.com, and go get yourself a suppressor for your upcoming hunts. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by OnX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is OnX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, OnX Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust OnX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about OnX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt. And check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. If you're in the market for optics, I want you to go check out blackdiamondoptics.com. Black Diamond Optics offers world-class sporting and tactical optics, including thermals, all at wholesale pricing, direct to consumer. They are going to be partnering up with us for 2023, and I want to start pointing you over towards their direction. Check out Black Diamond Optics. If you've got any questions about it, shoot us a message. Love to hear from you. Be blessed, everybody. All right, guys, if you're looking for a better way to stay hydrated this coming hunting season and on all your adventures in the future, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Their swig rig is awesome, an absolute game changer when it comes to staying hydrated. I get tired of playing around with any water bladders in my bag and having to remove things to get to them and the chance of them puncturing and all that. So what Hardside did, take Nalgene's, got multiple sizes, and you're attaching your hose straight to that. Keep it on the outside of your pack, a lot easier to use. They also have a lot of other cool things. Go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10. That's all one word. Save yourself 10% at checkout. Hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Be blessed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today I have probably one of the coolest episodes that I've had on the show in a very long time, because for the very first time in over 240 episodes, we are bringing on a very first-time hunter to talk about the story that went down. And we got his father on the hunt as well to talk all about that. And that is my good friend Jeff Winslow from North Dakota and his son David Winslow. And they're going to be talking all about what it means to have a legacy in the hunting world, within conservation, within the mentorship platform, and what it's like being a father and seeing your son succeed at something that you are so passionate and something that you love so much. So without further ado, we're going to invite on Jeff and David to tell the story of David's very first experience in the woods or on the prairie hunting. And we're going to talk a lot about the feels of it all. Like, how did it make you feel? What is the stuff that it left you with? Because inspired people inspire other people. And hopefully through this episode, you get inspired and you get to start setting goals and you get to start really envisioning what you want your legacy to be like within the hunting world. Maybe it's passing it on to your children. Maybe it's passing it on to new hunters. Maybe it is setting goals and attaining those within your own hunting journey. Whatever that is, we get to make it happen because we get to create our own existence. We're not just bumps on a log floating down the river of life. We get to actually put a rudder down and say, this is where I want to go. And so without further ado, my best friend from college, known him over half my life, Jeff Winslow. He's a returning guest who's talked all about the different hunts and shooting and all sorts of different things. He is a aficionado in long-range shooting, proficient hunter, and his son, David, joining us today for the podcast. Guys, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Dude, thanks for having us, man. The energy, love it. Love every time we get together, you always bring the hype.
I love it. David, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. Just got home from church. Pretty good service today. Getting ready for Thanksgiving tomorrow. So, yeah, doing pretty good.
Yeah, no complaints there. You know, it is kind of interesting. Wednesday night church. That's something that is pretty popular. And I remember, excuse me, in my youth, it was like a Wednesday night church service always going on. So I love it. Okay, so J-Dubs.
Yes, sir.
Jeffrey, how old were you when you took hunter safety?
Ooh, I was 18. It was my senior year of high school.
Was hunting something that was passed down to you from your father? Was it something that your friends did and they were like, "Hey, man, you got to come do this with us"? Or what was it that got you started in the outdoors and hunting?
No, my dad wasn't a hunter. Growing up in the Pacific Northwest, he obviously loved salmon fishing and steelhead fishing and, all that kind of thing. I took it my senior year of high school in hopes to hang out with some of my buddies who hunted and did that kind of thing. And I thought it just looked exciting. And so I took my hunter safety my senior year of high school. Didn't have a lot of time to take it beforehand with sports and different things, nor did I really have the desire. But yeah, when I turned 18, I took my hunter safety and kind of branched out on my own.
Yeah. That is awesome. At what age were you when you took your very first animal?
My first deer was my freshman year of college.
Okay, so what, 19 years old? About a year after or so?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. A couple buddies that I met over on the east side of the state. We got together down in Klickitat, and that's when I got my first deer.
So cool. So when you started hunting at 19 years old, you got into it just because you wanted to start spending more time with your buddies. That was the reason that you got into hunting, correct?
Yes, 100%.
So when you think back on your journey, you're 41 years old now, over half your life ago. What did you ever have forward thinking towards, like, man, this is awesome, I can't wait to share this with my kids? Or at what point did this become something that you're like, oh man, this could be really cool experience to share with my family?
This journey has always been a little bit selfish and a little bit self-centered. I got into hunting to hang out with my buddies.
Yeah.
And go on trips and experience our world in a different way than the normal go to house parties and clubs and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
As most young people seem to be experiencing life. I wanted to experience it in a different way, and this was that way. Did I think at the time that this was going to be something I'd be able to eventually pass down to my kids, starting with my son, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity with my two youngest daughters to take them hunting as well? No, I did not. I didn't think this would be a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Hunting is such an inherently selfish act, right? We do it because we're hungry. We want food. We do it because we want adventure. We do it because we're tired of the day-to-day 9 to 5 monotonous grind that the majority of human beings live. So ultimately, we do it to fulfill our own souls. However, through that progression of being a hunter, there comes a time where it is a special feeling to get to share it with other people beyond just maybe the people you originally got into hunting with. What point for you was that something that you were like, man, this is something special beyond just the selfish concept to it?
I would say probably about 9 years ago, I was watching the guy when I moved out to North Dakota. I've talked in other episodes about the people that have mentored me along the way. But when I was watching my mentor with his son, you know that little the voice inside your head, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yep.
Um, I was watching that, and somehow it just felt like it was foreshadowing.
Mm.
I saw how special that was, and I knew that, or I prayed, or I hoped, or I wished that eventually I would have that opportunity with my son.
Yeah. It's such an amazing thing. A lot of times we don't know what we don't know, right? People's experiences lead them to how they view the world. Ultimately, it's not until we're given an experience or are able to view something and say, wow, I would like that for myself. And that's why so powerful spreading our message of mentorship is conservation. So ultimately, people that don't hunt don't know how powerful it is until they get the experience to, or they see it and they feel it. Would you agree with that, David? Is hunting awesome?
Yeah, for sure. It's really fun.
And we're going to talk. I'm going to hear from you here in just a bit to talk more about your experience and journey. J-Dubs, your son is 11 years old. David is 11. He took his hunter safety at 10 years old. At what point, as a father, were you walking the fine line between, hey, it's hunting season, it's something I want to go do, versus it's hunting season, I can't wait to get my kid out afield?
Yeah, that's a super good question. Selfishly, I want to fill my tags, right?
Right.
I think that's I don't know, maybe that's not in everybody, but that's in me. I want to fill my tags.
Yeah.
This year, as fortune would have it, I filled both my tags early, and then that left David's tag as the only tag that we have left in the state of North Dakota. I'll be moving on next week to Arizona to do a late season elk hunt. But as far as David's tag goes, that was it. That was the main event. And what was really cool about that tag was everyone already knew that I had time off and was focusing on his tag. But all of my buddies here in town, how excited they were to help and encourage David, and how eager they were to be a part of that experience. That's what kind of caught me off guard. I thought that was really, really cool. So David was the only event in town. I was excited to give him, obviously, every last bit of energy I could. And what was really neat was all the other guys, Josh and Jamie and Lee and Chris and Kelby and, all those guys that just stepped up and wanted to be a part of that experience too.
Yeah.
4 days.
There is a journey. There's 5 stages of a hunter, as said by, I think, Boone and Crockett Club. The first is when you just want to see animals and experience it. The second, where you want to have an opportunity to shoot. Third one's where you want to fill your tags and limit out. Fourth one is when you want to start focusing on higher quality animals or different experiences, different out-of-state hunts or whatever. But the fifth one is like this stage that's focused around legacy and conservation is that you actually find more fulfillment in hunting when you get to watch somebody else experience success and see them grow or teach them or guide them or whatever. It's funny to hear you say that the whole community got on board because they wanted to see David have success. What type of feedback did you get from these friends of yours that talked about or why they even wanted to see David get success? Was it about the hunt? Was it about hunting as like the royal we, like we as a collective of hunters want to see David succeed so that he stays in it? What feedback did you get?
That was it in a nutshell. Was, you know, we we have to have positive experiences. And you know this as a teacher. Our kids have to have positive experiences. After a certain point, there's only so many negative experiences they can take before they just tune out and they don't want to be a part of whatever it is,
Yep.
whether it's hunting or roller skating or shooting guns or dancing on TikTok, whatever. If it's a bunch of negative experiences, then kids don't want to be a part of it. And David, to his credit, he sat in a ground blind for 7 days and didn't see one deer. But on the 8th day, it all went down. And in that time, all of my friends and people in the community and the people surrounding us, they knew that we only had a finite amount of time before a youngster, especially in 2023 with all the different distractions that are around young people, they knew that he only had a finite amount of time to have success before he would decide ultimately that he wanted to do something else.
Right.
And I think that coupled with these are guys that are really passionate about the outdoors and doing things correctly and talking about how the outdoors changes people. These guys are on it. And so both of those things were really important to my buddies and the people around us for David. And they stepped up, man.
That's awesome. David, did you feel like you had a community of support behind you?
Oh yeah, definitely. There were a ton of people helping me. Quite a few.
What type of advice or words of wisdom or guidance were people offering to you?
I don't remember specific like quotes or anything, but I just keep getting told, you just gotta wait until it comes right in front of you and you shoot it. That trigger. It's really quick, so yeah.
did we're gonna get to the story of your hunt here shortly, but just briefly, did it happen as quick as you expected it to happen?
If we're talking about shooting the deer and cutting it up, it was pretty quick. But if we're talking about hunting all 7 of those days and seeing nothing, it was super slow, for sure.
I love it. I love it. J Dubs, knowing that hunting is difficult and knowing that we don't always know what the outcome is going to be, and that's a part of why hunting is so special. Because if we knew what the outcome would be, it wouldn't really feel like hunting, right? Like it really takes away the power within hunting. Seeing that you sat 7 days and didn't see a single deer, what was that like as a father, taking your son on his very first hunts and being like, "Oh, it gets better, guys. It gets better." Or what thoughts were you thinking at that point?
It was agonizing because we were hunting a piece of property, and so we just had blue tongue and ESD and all that stuff come through the state a couple years ago, coupled with a real bad winter here in North Dakota last year. The whitetail population is hurting. So we kind of put our eggs into one basket. One of our buddies has a nice piece of property down by the river, and he said, "Hey, I don't have much, but I've got these white-tailed does on camera," which is what David had. He had a white-tailed doe tag. It was good anywhere in the state. And we thought, okay, well, at least there's white-tailed does there.
Mm-hmm.
All the pictures we were getting were at dark. And I know you've been getting into whitetail hunting, so you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say just because you're getting tons of pictures at dark doesn't really do you any good during the daytime.
Right.
So as it was, we sat in the blind and didn't see a deer for that time. And each time we went in, I was sitting there hoping that this was going to be the day for his sake. And I could feel that pressure mounting each time we went in and we left, and we went in and we left. I remember looking at him, and I can't remember what day it was, but we're sitting in the blind, and I leaned over and I whispered, I said, well, if it's going to be hard, I hope it's really hard. That way you get the true experience of hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of looked at me and had a little smirk, like, I don't want it to be any harder than this. But that was kind of my moment there. I was just like, if it's gonna be hard, then let's make it really hard. And then we strive for that success at the end. So when the accomplishment does show up, whether it's this year, next year, or the year after, then hopefully there's an appreciation and a gratitude towards that whole experience.
Right. That makes sense. David, how frustrating was it to sit in a blind day after day or night after night, however your sits ended up being, and not see a single thing?
Man, that was really frustrating. 7 consecutive days in there for like 5 hours a day. Terrible. Just took so long.
Sitting in silence. Were you in a pop-up blind or a box blind, or what were you sitting in?
We're in a big box blind, little muddy. So we were comfortable, but I think we would have rather been uncomfortable seeing deer than comfortable not seeing deer. But I might be speaking out of turn, but that's my take on it.
David, did you bring a book with you, or were your eyes peeled on the horizon the entire time?
I was kind of just watching on my phone and checking the horizon like every minute or two, just watching, seeing if I see anything move. Didn't see much though, obviously.
I get that. So, J-Dubs, real quick, have you gotten a chance to eat any of the deer that David has shot?
No, not yet. We got it grinded up yesterday, 2 days ago. We got the first grind through, and then we'll mix it all up with pork when we get home from our vacation here, and we'll do a bunch of ground burger, and that'll probably be the first thing we eat when we get home. We'll sit down and celebrate the life of that deer.
Awesome. I want you to shoot me a message when you do, and remember this. And David, I want you to remember this also. Jeff, this one goes for you first. Is as a father, you've always been the provider for your family. And you're about to partake in a meal that you didn't provide, that your son provided. And I want you to take note as to the feelings, the sensation, the memories, and just the overall experience of what that is and means like for your life. Because that is a time in my personal journey that when I got to sit across the table from my son, and eat the deer that he shot, like I almost teared up, goosebumps all over. Talking about that was a very special moment for me in my journey. So I want to put that on your radar and to really be reflective in that moment.
Bro, you're giving me the feels right now just thinking about it like that. I've never thought about that. That's never even crossed my mind.
Yeah, you're no longer the only provider in that family. Now you got a second one. Your sidekick, your shotgun, ride or die, David Winslow in the house, dropping it like it's hot. David, when it comes to hunting, let's talk about it before you even shot your first deer. Did you want to hunt because your dad hunted? Did you want to hunt because you wanted to experience that? What was it that really led you into, I think I want to give that a shot? All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode. As a thank you, I got more discount codes for all of you. If you are in the market for anything in regards to calls, whether it's elk calls, turkey calls, deer, or predator calls, you can save 15% on all Rocky Mountain hunting calls by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. And if you're in the market for hard side hydration, a better way to hydrate, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10 to save 10%. And we also have a discount at Graxaw.com. Graxaw is the leader in ultralight game bags and other backcountry gear. Light, fast, and efficient is their motto. Use the code SOULSEEKERS, all one word, to save 10% at checkout.
My dad was, I think it's because my dad, he was always going out there hunting. I kind of wanted to see what it was like, so I went with him one time. It was kind of boring because we didn't see anything. I was just sitting on the floor. But like during hunter safety, I realized that it's not like about sitting there and waiting for a deer. You're spending time with the person you're shooting with, and or being out there to see and try and find a deer, not just be out there to just that's kind of and I did hunt because of my dad. Yes.
I love it, David. Knowing that this was going to be your hunting season. This was going to be the year that you were going to go out, hunt your youth tag, and get after it. Did you have any dreams about what it was going to be like? Did you, kind of like a Christmas morning, like the anticipation, or did you have any visions in your head of what the experience you wanted to have would be like?
That's a good question. I've never asked him that, and I've asked him a lot of questions. Did you have any dreams of what it was going to be like to shoot your first deer?
Well, I thought like we just go in, wait, and try and find like a deer. Just walk right in front of us, shoot it, cut it up, then we'll be able to eat it like it's normal. But it took much longer than you would actually think. It just takes really long, I feel like.
It does. The journey is long. That is true. David, did you ever lay in bed at night and like think about you shooting a deer or you squeezing the trigger?
Yes, I did. I thought, I just, like, I was, what was going through my mind was, like, I was just thinking, there's a deer in front of me, I'm going to pull the trigger on it. Boom. Instead, we cut it up, Kind of like that, I feel. That's what was going through my mind a lot.
So you thought it was going to be pretty quick and easy?
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Dave, let me ask you this. As a grown adult, I drive down the road, and when I see deer in a field, I'm like, oh man, there's a deer there. Or, I'm pointing them out to my kids and my wife, and I get all excited. Before you started hunting, did you have an appreciation for looking at animals like that? And now since you've shot one, do you have a different appreciation for when you see animals out?
Okay, so I used to think, oh yeah, it's a deer, it's really pretty. Like, it's like munching on grass or whatever. But now I'm like, oh yeah, that's a deer, we should shoot that sometime. Kind of like that.
Oh, I love it, David.
Still in the first stage, that Boone and Crockett 5 checkpoints you talk about. I definitely think he's still in that first stage.
Absolutely. The 5 stages of a hunter is fascinating, and it's like pretty doggone spot on. I think if you start hunting as an adult, though, you go from stage 1 to 2, 3, maybe 2 to 3. And straight to 5. And then the 4 comes later on. But we can talk about that later. Let's talk about David here for a second. David, I drive to work daily, and I see deer almost daily on my drive to work. And as a hunter, I feel like, oh man, these roadside deer are like they're teasing me. They're all over the place. And yet when you go hunting and then you don't see anything, that's like the biggest gut punch and makes you feel horrible. Like I can see deer going to school, but why can't I see deer when I'm hunting? Did you ever have any experiences or feelings like that?
Uh, Not necessarily, no. I see deer on the road sometimes, not very often though. Cause I don't really drive out of town much unless I'm going somewhere like far from town. But I mainly drive in town, so I don't really see deer in town.
Wait,
No,
Dave, you can drive also?
What?
not when I'm in. My mom drives me.
No, I know, buddy. I know. I'm giving you a little hustle right now. Dave, I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of you. And I'm really proud of you for being on this podcast as well, because I know that it's got to be a little nerve-wracking. You get full-grown adults that are like, "Oh man, I'm not sure how I'm going to do." So you're doing a wonderful job, just so you know. I want you to hear that. J Dubs, hearing me ask your son questions like this, um, what's your take on this? Like hearing these thoughts of like, yeah, you see city deer, or it seems like seeing animals is just so easy, and then you go hunting and it's not as easy as you think. Like, what's your take?
I I think it's fun. I think it's a great way to get down to the root of the cause, which is, you know, did you have fun? Was it a positive experience?
Yep.
Um, I told him this on our drive home after he got his deer. I said, "You are now an active participant in the hunting community.
Mm-hmm.
So you have gotten a deer, and now you get to choose whether you like it or not, or if you want to continue to participate or not, because of your experience."
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote. I'm looking to see where this is, if I have it here. I wrote an article recently, and I wrote about talking. The article involves my oldest boy's first hunt, Carter, and um, it was interesting that how I wrote about it is this idea that, you know, for me to experience the joy of fatherhood and the continuation and transfer of my legacy of being a hunter to my son, I felt like words cannot describe. Not only was I impacting the trajectory of my son's life, and David, I want you to hear this. I want you to, like, not only is your father impacting the trajectory of your life by passing on a skill set that is going to be beneficial for you for the rest of your life. And then when you are old enough to have children of your own, something that you can pass on to them as well. And it all starts because your father decided to become a hunter one day. So not only is it impacting the trajectory of your life, it's also impacting conservation on a grander scale by welcoming another hunter into the fold. You're not just David, 11-year-old boy, son of Jeff, and what, sixth grader, seventh grader? How old are you? What grade?
Sixth grade.
Yeah, you're not just a sixth grade boy. You are a hunter within the grand scheme of conservation, and the money that your hunting license went to is impacting the Pittman-Robertson Act and conservation and wildlife and wild places to make sure that they last for generations to come beyond just your father's life and your life. Taking the life of an animal and getting into that type of thing is a powerful, powerful thing that more often than not, excuse me, we forget about. And it's so often we're like, oh, it's all about just squeezing the trigger. Oh, it's all about just putting that meat in the freezer on the dinner table. What you did by making the conscious decision to say, I want to hunt. Yeah, because my dad hunted. You betcha. The legacy now that you started for yourself, David, is something that will not go void and will last for as long as you want it to last. is your first time that you are no longer, like your father said, you in your life have been a observer of nature. You've looked out a window of a car, you've looked through binoculars and be like, oh, there's deer, or you've watched other people do it. You've been an observer. You are now an active participant in the universe around you, in the wild places, in the natural habitats, and in the ecosystem. You, David, left your footprint, your mark on this world by what you did. And I want to tell you that it's a special thing, and I'm really proud of you.
Thanks.
I know that may be a little deeper than maybe you are grasping potentially right now, but Jeff, I'm sure that you're thinking like, man,
Hey, it's a big deal.
it's a huge deal.
It's a big deal, and it's definitely something that we don't take lightly, and we don't take it for granted. And we're certainly thankful for the opportunities that we have, and we're definitely thankful that David had the opportunity this year to become an active participant in the hunting world, rather than a casual observer.
Yes. Okay, well, I think it's about time we hear the story. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys to share the story, and whether it's David's turn or your turn or however the perspectives go, because I want to hear both of you share the story. Because David, you got to understand what you saw is different than what your dad saw. So both stories are equally as important. So take it away, J-Dubs. Why don't you intro it, and then you work with David on how you guys want to share the story.
Okay, so we've already laid out the fact that we've spent 7 days in a ground blind south of town, and we didn't see a deer. I will have you know, though, that we heard lots of coyotes, and I think my son's interested now in shooting coyotes via thermal, but that's for a different day. We'll talk about it a different time. But so we spent those 7 days there. Didn't see anything. Thankful for the opportunity to spend that time there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we made a couple calls, got on some land that I've hunted up north before, up towards the Canadian border, where we knew that there's plenty of whitetails and whitetail doe. And the landowner we talked to was gracious enough to give us the opportunity to head up there. So I grabbed, let's see, it would have been on a Sunday night. David just got home from choir, and I said, pack up your stuff, let's go. And we jumped in the truck, and we were racing daylight because, November in North Dakota, there's not much daylight after, seems like 4 o'clock.
Right.
Got up to the field, tied in with another buddy of ours that was up there earlier scouting to give us an idea of where to go, what to look for. And then we jumped in his truck, drove down to the bottom of a field, and then that's where it all really began. Then we started walking. So how far do you think we walked?
You said it was about 800, I think, yards.
800, 900 yards?
Yeah.
To the first spot where we saw the first deer?
Yeah, about.
Did you see the first buck?
No, I didn't see that.
I was wondering. So there was a buck on a fence line, and we're both looking at it. We're like, "Do you see it? Do you see it?" He's like, "No, no, no." And I said, "Hey, do you see it?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, it's right there." And I looked at my other buddy. I go, "He doesn't see it." So then from there though, we saw a couple of does that were 300 yards away. So we walked about 900 yards, saw one deer. It was a buck. We can't shoot a buck. And then we saw those 2 does below the hill. So we had to find a shooting position. So we walked about another 200-300 yards back down to the bottom of the hill and try and looped around on to get on top. And then we got on top. I got behind the gun, and I got the one doe in the scope. And then I go, "David, hop on." And I felt so terrible. As soon as he got on the gun, He goes, Dad, where are they? And I'm looking up and I just see the white flags. They're already away. And I was like, rats. So those deer moved out, but we saw a nice whitetail buck. Probably he'll be a good one next year. He's probably 130s, 140s. You saw that one. Mm-hmm. That was a big one. Mm-hmm. And the deer are rutting up here. So we thought there's got to be some does somewhere around him. So we walked another 300-400 yards to the around the hill and got him into a little position on top of a little mound, and we just waited. What'd you see when we got on the mound?
The mound, I saw like 3 white-tailed doe. So there were 2 of them I think were small. The one that I shot was really big. She was huge. So,
David, was your adrenaline pumping at this point, or were you starting to get the buck fever even though you're shooting does?
Yeah.
So did you ever see the buck in your scope?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yeah.
And then the doe, we tried to get on that 3 or 4 times, and it kept there with all that buck brush out there. We were trying to pick the right opening and clearing for that doe to walk through. And we were struggling there for a little bit so that you could see it, right?
Yeah.
Was when you did see it, was it pretty easy to see?
Yeah, for sure.
It just took a while to get it in your scope.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So go ahead, Jay.
So David, were you shaking? Were you nervous? What was going on?
I was not physically shaking, but in my mind, I was definitely shaking for sure. I was thinking like, oh, I can't miss. So it was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Did anyone prepare you for what that feeling could potentially be like?
I mean, not really. They would always tell me, but I didn't actually think that it'd be that intense. So
I think when it comes to certain things in life, you're just gonna have to experience it for yourself.
Yeah.
I can only articulate just how wonderful of a feeling it is to like hunt or watch your son hunt or any of those things. But until you really experience it,
yep,
it's hard to give it the energy that something like that deserves.
Yeah.
And try and paint a picture like that. But anyways, we let's see. So once we got in position, we got David on the mound there. He saw the buck. That buck's a stud, by the way. Looking forward to seeing him next year during archery season.
Sweet.
And that the doe, I remember the doe. There was 2 of them. They were coming through, and I said, "There it is, David. Do you see it?" He said, "No." And then on the second clearing, they came in, and then David got on it, and I ranged it, and it was like, I want to say 475,
mm-hmm.
and which he's done. Like the level of practice that he's had is pretty abnormal, I think, for an 11-year-old. We've ran him out to 985 yards, and he's consistently hit there. Were we going to take a shot at 985 yards? No, absolutely not. Can he? Yes. Will he? No. But so we at 475, and I was starting to think, okay, this might be our chance. So I dial up the scope, and then that buck pushes the does closer to us. So we dial the scope back. We just settle in. The doe gets to right about 200 yards. And I look over one more time and I go, David, do you see it in your scope? And he said, yes, Dad. I said, okay, whenever you're ready, shoot. And on our way up there, I told him, I said, David, you're in control of the entire situation. I go, you'll shoot when you're ready to shoot. Don't let me or the other guy that's with us tell you any different. And boom, foreshadowing, here we are. And I go, David, do you have her in your scope? Is everything good? He says, yes. I said, shoot. And he didn't. I was like, oh. And I go, do you still see her? He goes, yes. I go, shoot. And he didn't. And I go, what are you waiting for? He goes, I'm just trying to get ready to shoot this thing, Dad.
Wow.
Said, okay. And then I stop, and like, I don't know, 15 or 20 seconds goes by, and we're shooting suppressed, and all you hear is the whack, just that heavy impact. And he goes, I got her. I go, oh yeah, you definitely got her. She took about 20 steps and then fell over.
Oh, congratulations, David. Is there anything
And
to that story that you want to add from your perspective?
Not really. It was just really intense though when it happened.
I think, and there's a part of this story that I think is really, really important. And that's when we got up next to her. So we would give animals time to themselves to expire. But in this little area that we were in, I knew there was a lot of coyotes, and it was going to get dark really quick. And we were in CRP, which makes blood trailing and just finding your animal really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
They blend in really well. So I saw her drop, and we walked right away. We went right to her. So we were on her within probably 2 or 3 minutes, and she was still alive. And what happened after that?
We had to shoot her in her head. Her eyeball popped out. It's kind of funny. I could not stop talking about it.
But why did we have to shoot her?
So that way she didn't suffer.
Yeah.
Right? So, I'll tell you from my perspective, the importance. He's looking at it from an 11-year-old boy who just, shot a doe in the back of her head and her eyeball popped out.
Yeah.
He's amused by that. But when we got up there, I was like, hey, dude, here's the deal. I said, even though we're trying to take her life, and we just did, I go, walk out of here for 5 minutes and let her just expire, or we can just do this now. And everybody's different. But as for me and how I'm going to raise my children, if we can help it, we're not going to let any of our animals suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the guys we were with goes, hey, dude, are you going to take your knife out and slit her throat? And I said, no. I said, that's not my job. I said, this is David's deer. So what'd we do?
Shoot her in the head.
Shot her in the head. I racked one in the gun. I handed him the gun, and I said, this is your gig, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you got to finish this thing.
Yeah.
And he did, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Because I know grown people that they can't do that. Right.
Dave, I had my first branch antlered buck that I ever shot. Actually, I'll show you what he looks like right here, Dave. Up on that wall, that buck right there. I put a beautiful double lung shot on it, broadside shot, and pancaked him. Actually, did it? Yeah, it was double lung, but it was the front lung. So I blasted his front shoulder, and he just pancaked. But it was a dumping snow out, and I wouldn't say a blizzard, but it was snowing so hard that I couldn't see very far ahead of me. And I knew that if I missed, because I shot him offhand, that I could at least track the deer and get on him. So I hustled up there, just similar to your story, and he wasn't expired yet. However, my deer got up and started trying to run away, and I had to shoot a second time on the move. They're tough animals, and I commend you for having to do that second shot, because there's a lot of people, like your father said, that's a tough thing to do. But I would agree, and it's the right thing to do. So with all that, you guys ended up getting it Dave, did your dad give you the honors of putting a knife into it, or did he say the first one's free and the next one's yours?
He did not really. I was holding up legs for them, really. That's really what I was doing. They had me hold legs so that way they could cut everything off. Yeah, that's kind of really what I did. And then I also had to pour water and shine my flashlight. And that's really what I did for cutting the deer.
Did you watch the deer get cut open?
Yeah, it was amusing.
There you go. So you weren't grossed out by it.
He asked a lot of questions, which I didn't know what to expect. Whether he was gonna, turn and run and be disgusted by the whole thing, or be intrigued, or I didn't know what to expect. So I was pretty surprised when he started asking a bunch of questions on what we were doing, why we were doing it. Wanted to touch the deer when the hide was off, right? Yeah. He's like, "What's that feel like?" I'm like, "It feels like meat,"
Yeah.
So, he was really intrigued, and I think he had quite the experience watching all that. And then when we deboned it in the garage, he was asking Joshy tons of questions, and that's when we gave him a knife and let him cut on the front shoulder a little bit, and that kind of thing, be a part of it. But the first couple are going to be free. The same way I learned, I want him to learn, which was I learned by watching. And I had some really good, patient mentors and people around me that knew that I didn't have the experience that they did.
Right.
So they were like, "Watch this." And I would watch and watch and watch. And now I'm just getting to the point where I'm okay with a knife. Am I ever going to be like some of my other buddies? No, they're all stars with a knife. That's what they do. But we did okay. We got all the quarters and the straps and the tenderloins and all that stuff. So it was all good.
I love it. David, what do you want from your next hunt? Have you thought about that yet?
No, not really. Actually, I'm just I kind of just keep thinking about this one. It's always the eye that gets me. I'm always thinking about that. It's really funny.
He needs to hunt coyotes.
Yeah, Dave.
He might be a predator hunter, Jay, because when that eyeball popped out of that deer, I never seen a kid so excited. I was like, "Oh man, I might be raising a predator hunter."
Hey, I'm a predator hunter, David. I shot my first coyote with your father, and I've shot more bears than I have deer. So,
wow.
Yeah, I'm a predator hunter. Don't let him hate on you. I love it. Guys, we're gonna wrap this bad boy up. Anything else you wanna share for the good of the story?
Do you have anything?
I don't know. It's your story.
I don't really have anything else. That's really all I got.
I'll tell you this, Jay, just kind of closing it down. Back to like the Boone and Crockett 5 stages. For the longest time, these last, however many years I've been a part of the hunting, it's been very self-centered. But it wasn't until that white-tailed doe hit the ground that I was like, that feeling surpassed all other feelings.
Yep.
Big bulls, big deer, coyotes, just you name it. There's not a hunting experience that trumps watching your son shoot his first deer.
Yep.
Like that was it. So I already started thinking about what next year looks like, but I'm not thinking about what next year looks like for me and my tags.
Yep.
I'm thinking about what's next year look like for David and his tags.
Yep, exactly. I love that. J-Dubs, did you ever think your legacy would be something like this?
No. I thought it would be me being a high school head basketball coach and, my son being the next Michael Jordan or Larry Bird that grew up in a gym and, did that kind of thing. The son of a coach.
Uh-huh.
and my life's gone completely the other direction.
Yeah. And how satisfying is it though?
You can't put money on it,
Yeah.
John. It's truly better than anything I've ever experienced.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. Well, guys, I'm super honored to have this story be a part of Soul Seekers Nation. David, welcome to the family, brother. Welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hey, J-Dubs, really proud of you. Way to go. Everybody, go think about this episode. Think about what legacy you want to leave in the hunting world. Think about what you want to leave to the next generation. And even if you don't have children of your own, remember that you're building a foundation that you get to pass on, and you want your foundation to be rock solid. You want it to be built upon rock, not upon sand. And it all starts from right now in the choices we make and how we view ourselves and how we view the world. So remember that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, and that you can never outgive good, as mentorship is conservation. Guys, if you like this episode, share, subscribe, like it, give it a thumbs up. You know, everything that you do to help support the show helps continue the mission and helps make a difference in this world. Remember, you got to be the change you want to see in the world. For Johnny Mac, Jeff Winslow, and David Winslow himself, the new hunter, welcome. Thanks for listening to this episode. Be blessed. Freedom on. As everybody, enjoy your holiday weekend. Stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating, as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group, as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.